That is one of the areas that you hear being tagged the black tax. And this is more common in black communities, not just in Africa, but in Europe and all things like that. Where normally if one person breaks through and they're employed, or, well, you might be, you might not, but it's expected that the younger generation take care of the older generation automatically. So even before your parent becomes sick, you find that once they retire, or they've never retired but they've never been in formal employment, when you get your first job, it's never about you. It is about your parents, your siblings. I don't know, you have, and you know we have such a laborious family. So you'll find that your father has 14 children, you're the eldest, you must pay tuition for all the other children, even step siblings. In Africa, actually, normally there's nothing about step or cousins. You say my brother, my sister. But of course, maybe increasingly as we interface with Western culture, now we begin to differentiate. So you find people saying my brother, my sister, well, then one day you hear, oh, that's actually their half brother or sister. But it is expected that you do that. Now, when they fall ill, even in cases, most times, as you said, it's expected that a girl child from that home, of course, you might be a grown up, it is your responsibility to take care of a sick parent, your mother or your father. Literally, women leave their homes, their marital homes, and go back home to take care of their parents. Where they can't do that, literally, they bring their parents to where they are. But even in cases where the sick parents are brought to a male child's home, that duty is left to his spouse. And those are sometimes the areas of conflict, where the man behaves like that's not his parents, and the goodness of a wife is determined by how much care they pay attention. And many times the in-laws really stressful. There are these expectations on how lousy your food is, how you're not kneeling down, how you're not doing this, you've not done this in time. But remember, you have children, you have your usual domestic role, cooking, preparing kids at school, picking them, but you still have to look after these old people, and old people can be quite touchy. They have a different meal schedule. Maybe their food, there's no salt in it, no sugar. Normally you cook with salt in your food. The bathing, some of them are helpless actually, and they need to be washed and bathed. Then there are all these taboos around, you know, around in-laws and how they interact and things like that. So it is one of those things, and yet in cases where either there's no female to do it or the females refuse to do it, people actually pay for nurses. So you see, it is work that people know is worth, and it's tedious work, because old people actually don't heal. They can just give you a week's break and they're sick again. They're permanently ill. They're permanently grumpy. So it is one of those things. Sometimes you're even expected to quit work and go and take care of a sick, either your sick parents or your sick in-laws. It is an expectation, and people get shocked when you don't sacrifice. Yes? I've had personal experiences where you're supporting people, but you find that you're still expected, yeah, to go and help. I remember one of my sisters-in-law was getting married, and in the evenings and weekends I used to lecture at Makerere. And I'd literally supported financially, like doing all the shopping, the food that will be needed at the event, and this and the other, like substantially. But eventually, after my lecture, when I appeared around 7:30, the first comment I got that, guy, you've abandoned us with all the work. Because I was expected to have. Meanwhile, these are the jobs that give me the money that I'm able to pass on. Yes? I already have a black tax on my shoulder. But it is not good enough, because as a female in that home, I did not go to support, to do the cooking. So I am not good enough, you know? And that was such a big issue. And I'm like, I bought the charcoal, I bought the... I even remember getting a driver at work to go very early in the morning to Kareirwe. Eh? Like if we buy the matoke, I remember on a field trip, this will go bad. Eh? So that morning we had to go do the shopping, do what? Totally at my expense. I had to pay that driver on my cost. I had to buy the food on my cost. They had so many guests. But well, if maybe not many people know the vernacular, but anyway, they literally told me, go to Lekeredenyo. You know, eh? Like, really? But nobody looked. I think it was assumed the other male parties had done that. But I had done all that. So you see, there are those expectations that as a woman, married in a home or coming from a home, there are certain roles that are yours. Whether you're financed or not, you have to do those roles. For us, it is a barrier. We want food. I've even had this, hey, you modern women, I hear that you did outside catering. It is me, the way is the food. Like, this is your home, not mine. Why are you asking me for the food? But people are not embarrassed to take you on, eh? And then they use your professional progress even to try and patronize you and bring you down. Yeah, that is the trouble with women, educated women, you know. So I think those cultural roles, the community roles where women are expected to do the cooking, and then it's always assumed that women care work is theirs. Looking after children, looking after the sick, washing clothes, ironing clothes, cooking. Every barrier, it is the women to go first and things like that. Even in church, when they're saying, well, volunteers for what? You know, it's always like a shock if a male volunteers to be one of the people coming every Saturday to clean the church. Now you, the women who are not offering, a good woman does this. There's this church I go to. We have a church WhatsApp group. And I recall one day the bishop was coming and they had been mobilizing for weeks for people who will do this and all that. And then the day finally came, and it was the women's union business to make sure there's food, there's what. And despite everything the women did, financial contribution, first of all, when they're collecting money, they don't segregate that it's men's money or women's money. They just want the congregation to contribute. But when now it comes to do now the cooking, the serving, you know, it is the woman's work. You know, we're a group of men. Maybe this might even be the most high-ranking woman. They will tell you, you think you can help us? You know, women, you're the ones good at this. And I remember someone posting at the group about, you know, modern women, what? Those who cooked, those who didn't cook. So there was one of the ladies kneeling down, the chair of the women's union, kneeling now to receive and serve. And then one man was commenting about the good attributes of women these days, and he ranted on and what. And of course, I just came in and I'm like, if the purpose of this group is promote negative patriarchy, to oppress the rest of us despite our contribution, of course, that killed the conversation. But there had been this conversation going on the whole day. A good woman and a bad woman, because I'm one of those who despise kneeling. So for me, it touched me in the core. I had contributed financially, and women were expected to do the cooking and what. And again, we are being blamed because some of us stood stiff like sticks. But the other one who knelt now was the most useful woman because he knelt and all the men were standing on the side and things like that. So there are those roles that automatically, cleaning is for women, looking after the sick is for women, you know, those kind of things. So these are unappreciated roles. So it looks like invisible work. So it is not that the work is invisible, it is the value that people pretend is invisible because they don't want to pay for it. Because every time these roles move to men, men will demand to go fetch water. I need to put fuel on my boda on my car to go and fetch. The you people contribute. While the women, you people, let's go fetch water. So there's this long line of women carrying jerrycans and buckets and basins on their head and saucepans to go fetch water miles away. But when it is men, they'll say, yes, I'll bring the water. I need to go and get a bicycle from there. Give me money for the rubber, that elastic, whatever, for tying, or a rope or what. You see, men always will demand for money, will demand for the value of that. Like, no, I'll need money for this. That will cost so much, and then I'll go do it, you know. Women, we need to grind grains that have harvested what? We need portion. If you send a male, even in my home, you send a male child, I said, well, you put fuel and I go and grind. They have no problem going, but you must facilitate the process to make it comfortable. If it is a woman, like, you mean you cannot walk just there and go and grind that thing and come back? So you see, those kind of roles that are always unappreciated, and women are expected to give it for free. And when men do it, they're expected to be paid. So sometimes I don't know if men have a better bargaining, but because even when we have like maids and then male workers in the home. Many times you find that we pay the males better. They negotiate maybe better, while the girl sometimes is just happy to come and do the work. Of course, there are challenges that come with that. Sometimes they overly rob you. I've had an experience, almost 90% of the few maids I've had, because I phased them out long ago, they have robbed me. And yet I'd try to go a step further and pay them more. But maybe still it's not good enough. So maybe we should pay more. Yes? While a male worker will negotiate for so much. Say, if you're adding me that, you have to add me money. You said I'm only coming to guard the gate. Now you're telling me to weed. You need to add me more. Those kind of things. So when a man is doing cooking, he will charge for it. But many women, even when we are getting outside catering, if it's a male caterer, they charge premium prices, and they're not batting an eyelid about it, and they're not negotiating. If it's giving you a discount, like, fine, you can shop all these things. And those guys have, I think, understandings with the market guys. They buy things cheaper, but they'll give you a bill. You build those things, and then what? You charge me labor. You'll pay me labor. When it's a woman, said, you're a woman. Okay, we shall help you do some things. Yeah? But in reality, you find that maybe women are not very good at negotiating some of these things. So yes, those are some of the challenges we have, and sometimes we see this now migrating to the professional spaces. In that, when a job is advertised, normally sometimes they say preferably male, preferably female. But when women are given certain jobs, there's so many testimonies of women saying, I found out the male before me who occupied that job was earning 3 times more than me. So you see, the thing about women, maybe we're even poor researchers, because many times we apply for a job, you're just happy to get the job, and they'll ask you your salary expectations, and you'll throw a figure. So some jobs have a salary bracket, some places have a fixed salary. Many times where there's that salary bracket, you find women are exploited. They're paid the lower minimum, while the man will negotiate for the top minimum, or is not taking the job anyway. So I think men do their research. Normally they'll come, they know how much they're paying. Women, you're at the interview, you don't even know. So are you going to shoot too low or too high? And then when you get the job, for me in my case, I've never done a job where I'm paid less than a man. But there was an incident where I found that my male counterparts were getting a housing allowance and I wasn't. And it shocked me. Yeah. And when I tried to inquire, they said, no, we can't give women a housing allowance because a male in your life somewhere is getting that money. Your husband must be getting that money. I'm like, no, I have no husband. Like, well, maybe your father. And you staying at home? Like, who told you I'm staying at home? I rent my own place. So I need the housing allowance. So there are those assumptions that men in your life are footing the bill for something. Yet when a man demands for housing allowance, looking at the patriarchal arrangement that shelter is a man's role, he will easily be given that money, even if in reality he might be living in a woman's house, but he gets a housing allowance. So you find those spaces. And of course, the example that I keep giving, maybe you're in the boardroom, people are serving tea, the men are, I don't know how to do this. And if you're a female next to them, people are not ashamed to tell you, doctor, I think you'll help us have the tea. We're not very good with this. Okay, maybe you're not, maybe you are, but things like taking minutes, it's always a woman's job. Patricia, I think you'll take the minutes. I'm like, no. Let someone else take the minutes. Why should it always be the woman in the room? But if they are men only, you'll find there's a male playing that role, or everybody takes care of their own business. So those are some of the areas where you find that women are often disaggregated against. And sometimes when women try to negotiate for more money, you hear they've dropped them, like, oh, that's the problematic woman. Oh, she's proud. She's too expensive and things like that. Just because you've asked for your value. You know your value and you've said either this or nothing, then you're branded an impossible, difficult woman, and they'll pack you on the side. Yet the man demanding for certain things, he has the desirable attributes. He's firm, he's confident, he fights for his space. While you, the woman, the Baganda say, wakula nsajja, whatever that term they like saying. But you're male-like. That is not a good attribute for a woman. You're too confident, you're too loud. You're like a man. We don't even know which man will date you or marry you. So they use those derogatory things to bring you down so that you don't negotiate for your value and your spaces.